Okay, so we're gonna get started, and if anybody then joins, they're more than welcome. As we said, the slides are in Spanish. We're gonna do the workshop in English because we don't have translation, so we might as well just go in that way. My name is Natalia Carfi. I come from Buenos Aires city government in Argentina. I work within the Innovation lab, and I run the Open Government Initiative there.
My name is Arturo Muente. I work in the World Bank as a senior ICT specialist. The whole idea of the workshop not only is to give you sort of a primer on what open data is, but also we want to show you that any problem that you may face in your city can be alleviated, if not completely solved, by open data or through open data. So it's a thesis that we are very keen on and we truly believe, so we'll take it a shot here. Natalia.
Yeah, so anybody that already knows what open data is, I'm sorry, we're going to do a little explanation on that so that we all are talking about exactly the same thing. This is actually the theoretical explanation on where we are born as an open government initiative. Open government was kind of born in 2009. Obama, the first act he did was signing an open government initiative for United States. As many countries as there are implementing open government initiatives, there's like a zillion ideas on how this is implemented. But there's no discussion that open government has 3 pillars, which are these that are in Spanish, but I'm going to explain them in English. Okay, so we have participation, which means opening up government for citizens to be able to co-create policies, to be able to give their ideas and their opinions on what the government is doing, which is obviously changing the minds of the government and all the people that work within government, because government is not that used to being open. Then we have collaboration, which is the red side, which is mostly working within government. We as institutions in government tend to work in silos. We don't even share information with our friend ministry from the other side of the street. So it's trying to change the mind again of the government, but trying to make it a collaborative government, like a horizontal government, where we can all share and collaborate with our partners, with our peers employees of the government, to try to build up the best and to create the best public policies. And then open data is like the word up in the slide. Transparency. So it depends on which government we're talking about. Transparency has a law in some governments. Some governments do not have transparency law or FOIA law. And so whatever government is doing open government in their countries, they can do whatever. Like, there's a lot of ideas on how our open government is actually implemented, but everybody has an open data portal. Each of the governments that are doing open government already has an open data portal, and we're going to see what open data is. But if you think about it, if you're trying to create collaboration horizontally within government, if we're trying to open up government to citizens, we might as well give them the data so they can actually co-create with us, because if they don't know what we're doing as government, how can they give ideas that might actually work? So we're trying to publish the data of the government. Then, this is like a really silly way of explaining what open data is, but it's really, really easy to understand. This is the 5 stars of open data. Tim Berners-Lee created this, it's not me, so everybody uses it. He's the creator of internet, and it's a really easy way to explain what open data is. Please raise your hand if you've ever tried to copy and paste things from a PDF. Impossible, isn't it? You try to paste it in a Word doc, and it's impossible. PDF is really good for information to try to read, but it's not good for reuse. We need to be able to reuse the data within the documents to be able to say that it is open data. So 1 star, which is really, really close data, it's PDF. That's like the enemy of open data, okay? Because you can see it, but you cannot interact with it. You cannot take the information outside of the PDF. Then we have 2 stars, which would be, for example, an Excel. Okay, now you can actually do some visualizations with the data there. You can actually reuse it and do whatever you want. But why do we have only 2 stars? you have to pay for Microsoft Office to be able to open that file. So it's not free. So it's only 2 stars. Then we have 3 stars, CVS. Probably in all our computers, that file is actually going to open in an Excel file, whatever. But if you have Open Office, you can actually open it, of course, again, without even having to buy any program or whatever. And we're adding the CC license, sorry. The CC licenses, are the Creative Commons licenses. We need to tell whoever wants to reuse our data what they can do and what they cannot do with the open data that we're publishing. So the CC licenses are the most common ones. There's a lot of open licenses for open data. And what most governments actually allow everybody to do is to reuse the data, to republish the data, to do whatever they want with the data, and only acknowledge who created it. We'll see in a little bit more about CC licenses. Then we have 4 and 5 stars that go even further up to open link data. But for the sake of the workshop, I'll leave it there. You can find, this is the 5 stars of open data. It's everywhere. Tim Berners-Lee even has a video explaining what all those stars means. Most of the data that is published in Buenos Aires, for example, is up to 3 stars. And most of open government data published everywhere is up to 3 stars. Okay, so this is CC licenses in Spanish, sorry. You can also find a lot of information online about that. It's basically what you can license open data with. You need to put a license in the data so there's like a legal buy or not to whatever citizens can do. Actually, what you can say is you need to attribute the data to the government or not. If you see that little guy like slashed in a CC license, is that you don't need to give the attribution to whoever published that data. CC licenses are used for a lot of things, not only data, but we're talking about data, but you can like CC license photos or videos or music or whatever. Then the second circle, it's about commercial use. Like, can you reuse that data for commercial purposes or not? In that way, you cannot, but if you don't have that money sign slashed, you can actually produce anything you want economically with that data. Our government allows citizens to reuse the data for economic purposes because they will build new products and they will create new jobs, and then they will pay the government whatever that they need to pay with the IRS and everything. So we allow them to do that. Then the equal sign says that you can recreate and you can rethink and reuse and create new things with that data or not. Once again, if it's slashed, you cannot do it. If it's not, you can. And the last one is if you have to share like whatever you've done with that data, you have to open it with the same license that I put in the original data. So if you're using open data from Buenos Aires city government and you're creating a new, I don't know, whatever, a new enterprise, and you open up data, you have to open that new data with the same license that I put in my data. Once again, you slash it, you don't have to do that, you don't slash it, you have the other. Am I going too fast? I'm sorry. You can ask me then later, whatever you want. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna skip this, no? Okay, so come and join me, because here we're gonna do the first stop. We really want this to be a workshop, like hands-on workshop, and we want you to work and to think. So the first question for the groups would be, what kind of data, what kind of problems actually first? What kind of problems can you think your city has that could be solved through data? We're not thinking about which data still, but what kind of problems like do live in your city? Each group will have to choose one for the whole group, but kind of share your experiences of what kind of civic problems the government has, or maybe it's an NGO that brings in a problem. But what kind of problem would you like to work on today that you think data could help solve or at least alleviate. And we're going to do like 5 minutes.
Yeah. So, of course, hopefully you don't know the people that you are sitting with. So, spend just 30 seconds introducing yourselves. If you know each other, I would even urge you to change groups. I don't know. I know you won't, but that's okay. So introduce yourselves and then talk about for 5 minutes on the problems that you see in your city as citizens. Everybody is a citizen. I don't care if you're a government official or NGO or civil society. Every one of us is a citizen. So what kind of problems do you see in your city that you are really keen on solving or alleviating? If you can just spend 5 minutes on that. No, there's no correct answer as usual. Just a big problem that you are sick of. If you're still introducing yourself, move along. We need you to discuss the problems now. 30 seconds. Okay, so every group should have a problem that they've picked, a problem that really makes them sick to see in their cities, and they would really like to see solved. So we'll start from here. Who wants to share the problem that you've chosen?
For everybody? Okay. Okay, our problem is mobility, but the okay, mobility in all sizes, not only in the traffic jam, the problem, the security originated for the traffic jam, but I think so in my particular case is related with how we can improve the walking areas for everybody in the city.
Okay, so mobility in particular, how to improve walkable areas within the city. Okay, great. What about here? 1 more minute. Okay, you have until I finish with the groups. What about here?
Okay, hello, I'm Ronen. We choose the idea regarding to money because the World Bank, so it should be connected. We think about how to expose the city or the municipality authority expenses to the public. That the civilian population should know what are the major expenses of the authorities, and if they spend the money as according to the wishes of the population. And we thought about the challenge if the government write the accurate number and don't hide number that they don't want to expose to the public, and how to deal with this situation. Maybe we added an idea about a board that have a civilian servant or NGO that take a look about the number and see if it's accurate enough. Another issue is the data visualization, how the local civilian can deal with the big amount of data and try to really try to take care about all the numbers and see what the expenses are.
Okay, so transparency more than anything on the execution of resources from city authorities, right?
Open procurement, open spending, open.
You guys done now?
Okay, so sorry we're a bit late. So we're from various cities here. I'm from England, Copenhagen, Barcelona, Hong Kong, Germany, and Washington, DC. Ah, right, okay. So we had some commonality of parking, traffic, that sort of thing. We thought a good theme, though, that came up is territorial issues, so geographical deprivation issues. So even in my city, which is fairly high income, there's a big income disparity. And you see it in people's lack of mobility. They don't move around the town. Their journeys to work, conversely, may be very long. So we thought data that surfaced some of those issues might be important. So things like the property prices, travel to work, these kind of issues.
So if you had to summarize, the problem would be this sort of understanding the reality of the city beyond, our immediate surroundings, right? In terms of inequality, in terms of how life is for other citizens within our own city. Is that it? Mobility and poverty. Okay. Okay, our last group. What about here?
Okay. Hello, my name is Matti. I'm from Finland, city of Tampere, and we have people from Dubai, Washington D.C., and Mexico, and Italy, and well, various cities as well. So maybe we choose the mobility here, so public transportation and other services. So not in all cities. This is actually opening up the data and real-time data. For example, the public transportation. Buses and metros, etc. It could be a really big thing, and it's kind of part of the mobility as a service, which is kind of coming thing in the following years. For example, in city of Tampere, where I'm living, there is real-time data of the buses, which is updated once per second, which is quite real time actually, and all the bus lines, all the buses are included in this system. So, and for example, city of Tampere hasn't developed any mobile applications by itself, but the community and individual developers have developed the applications. So one thing here is that is this really business? Because these are mostly free apps, which are partly covered by the ads, for example. So it would be interesting to talk about the business also in this session.
Okay, thank you. So information on traffic in real time. Is that you went a little bit ahead of us because you already gave us the database, the problem, the database, and the solution. And there's something that we wanted to discuss today, and we were planning on doing it later. But it's the sustainability of such solution, and how do you make it sustainable beyond just a very nice and show ready exercise. What we're trying to do here is to explain through the experience of the city of Buenos Aires, which we think is one of the cities that have done the most in this arena. How you start with this problem identification and then you move towards planning a solution that is sustainable, in fact. So stick to those problems. In your case, stick to that whole process. Natalia.
Okay, so what we did in Buenos Aires is actually something kind of this, which is a process that we call Ciudad Abierta, which is open city. We didn't think that much about the name. But we did this, which is BA Camp, Buenos Aires Camp, which is actually something like this, but with 400 people. We invited citizens, NGOs, journalists, and whoever wanted to come. Actually, it was an open space for 2 days, and we were just discussing ideas. No technology involved whatsoever apart from Post-its. That was it. So we had priorly worked with different areas of the government and with different NGOs that already had problems they wanted to share with the community. But then there were people that just popped in and brought their own problems and ideas. So we spent 48 hours, everybody went to sleep anyway, but it was a weekend, discussing just ideas, just as you did. Obviously, with 48 hours, the problems and the ideas were like more prepared and everything. But we wanted people to decide what the main problems were for the city and which were the solutions. And of course, there was a lot of people that came in with problems that thought already knew the solution, but then iterating with other citizens and with other NGOs came out with a totally different solution than what they thought the solution was. And that's the amazing thing about collaboration. Everybody brings in their own vision to try to co-create a possible solution for the city. After this, what we did, and then we're gonna let you work, we accelerated for 2 months within the GovLab of Buenos Aires, the processes and the ideas of the possible solutions of the problems everybody picked. So for 2 months, we had the teams that were created there among the problems, around the problems and around the possible solutions, working with our team, trying to build up an idea of a prototype. What would that solution look like? Is it tech related? Is it just a communication campaign? Whatever, there were a lot of different problems and a lot of different solutions. And we worked with those teams for 2 months. which is not what we're going to do now because you're going to have like 5 minutes to come up with a solution.
So the idea now is you have problems, and in some of your cases you're being a little safe in terms of choosing the problem because you have a problem that already has a solution. But the idea of this part of the exercise is based on that problem that you've identified, walkable city, poverty, poverty and mobility, right? Finances, which kind of safe because there's something already out there. What kind of database would you need? In some cases this is an easy one. In that one, I don't know how much, and in this one also, specifically on the walkability, maybe a little different. What kind of data do you need that your city has and is currently sitting on top of, and they just have it, it's just that you don't have available for you. What kind of database do you need? And then what kind of solution or what kind of service or what would you do with that data so that it helps solve that problem? So you have 5 minutes for that. Okay, and in your case, it needs to be something different from what you have. Something totally different, but still the same problem. How can you solve that problem? What kind of data do you need? In your case, you have real-time data at 1 second intervals, which is kind of cool. What kind of problem or solution can you devise beyond your, where's my bus kind of service? Okay?
And
5 minutes.
To all the newcomers, if you want to join already formed groups, because we've already worked about the problems, so please join in some of the groups that have already started working. We've already only created the problem. Now we're going to work on solutions. So.
You have a couple more minutes, huh?
Hi. Yeah, we are. You can join one of the groups. What we've decided is we're working on open data and we can solve problems in different cities. So each of the groups decided which problem they were going to work on. Now they're working on which data to help them solve that problem or understand the data and what kind of solution we can come up with. And no, it was mobility. Public spending, then there's like organization activity.
But aside from that,
Hi. Done already?
Okay. So if you can all please remind us all, and on this one, please remind us all of your problem, database you've identified, one or more that you would need, and then the actual service, product, web page, web service, whatever you came up with, a device or gadget or something that will help solve or alleviate the problem. He spoke last time, somebody else? Okay.
Just like kind of being thrown here. Well, we have a very interesting discussion here. We were talking about data sets that are already, sorry, Andres was telling us that here in Barcelona, for instance, there is already people that are coming in the cruisers. Yeah. They are being mapped on how they get from the sea and start walking through the city. Oh, okay. Our challenge is like how to make cities more walkable, and that would be one data set. Map how new people start walking around, plus
Flickr, the pictures that people used to take. So you can make a map about Flickr or Facebook or whatever. And another one was cell phone
yes, the data from the cell phones, like start tracking how you walk around the city. So that information is pretty much being crowdsourced and can be mined to do a map, like a proper map on how people can actually walk around the city. And of course, through the device, the ultimate device that is in our hands, the smartphone. So, no.
Okay, so the problem is how to make the city more walkable. The idea is that we crowdsource data that already is out there from these cruises, people that are being mapped, Flickr and Facebook photos that have geolocation embedded, tweets, and then we can just make a social media and make a heat map of the, assuming that everybody's walking or just doing some filters of what areas are walkable and which are not. Through an app, I guess. Okay, great. Were you discussing something? No, you're the jury. Okay. So what about here? The lady that spoke, that actually proposed a problem left, and left you with that. Huh? That's a good one. Okay. Problem, database, solution.
Yeah, the problem we are looking for is where is poverty located in the city and what can we do about it. And the data we were thinking about we would need is 3 levels more or less, which could be combined. The first one would be a mapping of public services in a city, which municipalities should have. The second one is the question of income, maybe with doing a lot of work on income averages in areas, not to discriminate specific households or specific people, but still showing where the problems are located. And the third one, which was very interesting, is the idea of trying to crowdsource some data by having a platform where people could come up with problems and tell where they find difficulties in their cities, just to bring all this together. And the idea is bringing these 3 sets of data in order to help people to come up with ideas how to solve these problems or share solutions.
Okay, so it looks like more like an open innovation sort of platform that leverages on data that is both created by the government and by the crowd, right? So the ideas will be posted by the crowd, and then you would leverage data from the government on income levels and what was the first one? Public services availability. Okay, great. Awesome. What about here?
Well, we were trying to solve the problem of the transparency, especially with the budget of the government. So here we don't think that we need a very complex solution, technology solution, but we need to be able to update the initial budget of the government with the actual budget that is being spent on every aspect. So and especially we will need a very complex or a very usable visualization solution for the citizens to don't get lost on the data and to be able to actually see what they want.
Okay, so not only the database from budget, but also execution of that budget, so that you can compare execution to the budget, and then basically some smart or visualization tool that will allow to summarize probably thousands of line items into groups of, and through the years. Okay, so the evolution in time of budget items. Okay, great. What about here? The transport that cannot do a transport app. Somebody else, come on. Paco.
You want to give it to me? I mean, we're following on the line of Tampere, but I mean, obviously, for some countries like, for example, the Middle East or Latin America, it's like science fiction. What happens in Tampere? So now there are already lots of there are sensors on the roads, and then they have intelligent traffic lights and things which for the rest of the world it's almost unbelievable. But I think that the idea, the technology is already there. I mean, it's the technology, and it should be easy to apply this kind of technology anywhere. But it's also the fact that you be generating data all the time, and then make that data available so that the community can develop apps. And then the real issue is how to make them sustainable. I guess that this has to be a business one way or another, so that the community will continue building up on these apps. I think that the main thing here is the openness of the local authorities. The local government has to be really open in the sense that, okay, well, if they do have access to this technology and this data, that they should be able, should be really willing to provide opening the data for everybody to see and everybody to use. And obviously the amount of data generated by sensors or intelligent traffic lights, I think it's amazing, it's humongous. So that the data would be there. So how to, not only how to access that data, but how to extract from that data what you really need. Now, one of the things, for example, that the bus is coming, and every second we know where the bus is. But for example, we don't know how many people are on the bus. And that should be something that would be very easy to solve with the technology that they have right now. So it's more of a matter of innovation.
So the problem was how to improve mobility without a Where's My Bus kind of app. And databases are a lot of sensor-based data that in the case of Tampere already exists, which is, I think, kind of cheating with respect to the others, and then the app is sort of enriching or creating layers of information that go over it that improve the quality of the service. Okay, yeah, Natalia.
Okay, so we'll keep on walking through what we've done in Buenos Aires. After the 2 months acceleration, we did the world-known hackathon, which I'm not gonna think that everybody knows what a hackathon is, so I'm gonna kind of try and explain it. These are all people that spend a weekend working on all the projects we had accelerated. We had almost 300 people working there. There were obviously some developers, but there were citizens that had no idea about technology or whatever. They just wanted to pitch in and help create those solutions that they've been working for 3 months now. So what we came up with was some kind of prototypes that we are already implementing in the city. And so if the prototypes work, then we'll make them work for the whole city. So we've come from, the first thing we did in 2012 when we started the Open Data Initiative was to do just a hackathon. And we got a lot of great ideas, but in 48 hours it's really impossible to develop something. After 6 months, we already have working prototypes of the possible solutions, and we're now working with them to make them like working government. Should I show what we did right now?
Let's do the last piece of group work before we see some of the examples that they have. So here's the thing. You already have a problem. You already have a database that you want from the city or from elsewhere, and you already have some kind of prototype of what you want. So the city you are working with, regardless where it is, basically tells you, okay, I have no money, here's the data. Okay, I have no money, here's the data. So how do you make a business plan, or how do you make this product that you came up with something that will be attractive enough for it to be deployed, for it to be owned by someone, for it to be, you know, I'm not saying the next sort of, you know, Facebook, but something that will stay sustainable without government having to pay for it necessarily, unless you tell us that there's value for the government itself. You know what I mean? So what's the pitch, you know? And it's kind of unfair because there are many variables, but try to work that. We'll give you between 5 and 10 minutes. We don't have that much time anyway. We started a little late. But basically, you know, you understand the idea. Government, unless you tell them that there's a huge value for them, won't pay for the actual thing. They will give you the database, though, in whatever format you want, you know, 5 stars under Bernard-Lee if you want. But assume the data as given. How do you go around making it happen? Okay, 5 to 10 minutes.
Sorry, guys, just one more minute. If not, we're not going to have time to introduce the ideas.
It's short. Okay, so hello? Hello? Okay, so I'm sorry, but we're going to be kicked out in like 5 minutes, and I really want everybody to get a chance to hear what everybody else came up with. So in lieu of cutting you short, and I know I'm doing that, if you can just share with us, identify at least who would your solution be valuable for, and who would pay for it. Let's forget about the rest of the challenge, but who will this be valuable for, and who will actually pay for whatever solution you came up with in the previous stage? Here. I'm gonna start here this time. You know, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna start here this time. No. No, we're ready to hear from them both. Maria Grazia? No? Come on.
Okay, go.
Ming?
Please, open.
Who is this valuable for? I mean, it's easy for you guys.
Now we were actually talking about how to make this a sustainable thing. For example, in the city of Aguascalientes, there's now a proposal. We have 3 inner rings, and the first inner ring is participating in a project. And the idea is here that to set up kiosks at the main bus stops, and then people will be able actually to consult the time schedule when the next bus is going to come and how full it's going to be, and for 2 pesos. So we're going to see if that works in terms of how much revenue it will bring in, and then they're going to sell the app as a license, and people have to pay a certain amount, which is also very, very low. It's 30 pesos per month, and that's going to be specifically for the younger generation, but because most of them are very technology savvy and they have smartphones, so that they can actually pay for the service. And we think it's going to be very popular with students, especially because they use the bus a lot. So hopefully we'll know in about a year's time if it's sustainable or not. But that's an alternative.
Okay, over here. I'm sorry, I need to run. We all need to run. Okay.
Well, we thought that it's a right of citizens to know how the budget is used. So it should be for free in principle. So we thought that maybe the suppliers to the municipality should think of the solution and cover it. And maybe we need more time, but maybe the suppliers could have some publicity advertising in the system, so the people that get to the data will have information on these companies and what they do or whatever.
Okay. So that's a good one as I'm walking to the next group, because the solution is out there, as you know, but one of the most challenging things about it is who pays for it. It's usually civil society, but civil society cannot always be there forever. And this idea of somehow including private sector that may be willing and able to fund for it, or at least part of it, is actually something that may work. Over here.
Who would benefit from this? Who would pay for it, and who would benefit from it? So we're looking at poverty, so it's ultimately the poor, and that's a hard group to get money from, obviously, for obvious reasons. So we came up with 2 approaches, and admittedly they're not about paying. The one is initially the pitch would be telling the government at whatever level, that this product would ensure efficient use of money, savings. So although there would be a need for some sort of capital investment in the beginning, in the long term, you'd actually be saving money and enhancing the quality of life of your residents, which we think is a good one. It doesn't necessarily answer the question. But secondly, our colleague over here suggested that we could appeal to corporate social responsibility of businesses that are in the specific industries of providing services, and it would be good PR for them. It would mean an injection of money, and again, a benefit for the residents.
Okay, thank you. Last but not least, over here. 30 seconds, please.
Okay, so we came up with the idea that we were thinking about governmental funding of our solution, which we called before as an application that would enable pedestrians or citizens of some city for better walking. And we just realized that once you create such an application, you can locate restaurants, good places there who can fund your application, or citizens can download it for some little fee. And once the application is shared between people and get some support, you can address your government, because you will create critical mass of people that has some interest which is of common nature or nature of common good, and the government have to pay attention. And once you have some powerful tool, governments tend to rather support it than ignore it.
Great. Okay, so we need to run. We had some examples from Buenos Aires, but the main idea here is what you've just done. If you think of other problems that your city has, or that you have in your immediate vicinity, they can either be solved or alleviated by data. Data cannot harm any problem, but it can help solve it. And the challenges, especially the last one that we talked about, is of the utmost importance. You don't want something that is a nice idea that never sees the light of day. So thinking about how to make it sustainable, think about how you can actually leverage that data to solve a problem. And on the government side, instead of talking about killer apps, we should be talking about killer databases. So what databases can actually help solve problems? And since we don't really know, the idea is open as much as you can. I don't know if we have 30 seconds to share some of your examples, maybe one.
No, I just want to go through this, which has absolutely nothing to do with what I've been talking about, except it's the Open Data Charter, which is an international convention that has just been launched. Buenos Aires is leading the subnational working groups. So if anybody is scared to know more about the Open Data Charter, I'd be more than willing to speak outside of the room, because it's going to kick us out. And please, a big round of applause for everybody. Thanks for working after lunch with us.